Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 14th, 2022, and this is the Full Count Major League Baseball show that you're watching. We are very pleased that you took the time to watch us here, especially live, but it is archived for your viewing pleasure as well. Gentlemen, it is U.S. Open week, and I cannot hardly wait to talk about that on the Manny's Pub show one of the days this week. That is going to be an event of an event, but we have three events here in Major League Baseball to talk about. The Texas Rangers right now have the longest win streak in the American League at 3 games. That's pretty impressive, right? They're only 7.5 games out behind the Houston Astros, but they have 2 games under 500. But how about those Atlanta Braves? 12 in a row, going for their 13th tonight against a starter making his Major League debut. I don't know if they're ever going to lose another game, to be honest with you, but I think the Mets are in trouble. And speaking of the Mets, I believe that is our first game here. The Brewers are in Queens. And I'm not talking about kings and queens. I'm talking about one of the boroughs in New York City, and the Mets are hosting them. They're still in first place, the New York Mets are. They're 5-5 over their last 10. They still sport the second highest win percentage in all of baseball, and they're second to their crosstown rivals, the New York Yankees, who, not to use the name of the movie, but they are in a league of their own. Brewers are going to have Adrian Hauser on the hill, 3-6, but he could be 6-3, guys. ERA 3.92. Chris Bassitt is 4-4. ERA of 4.35. He came over from the Oakland A's, and I believe he's really starting to learn the National League way of having the batting order the way it is and the differences between the two leagues. Let's start with Dr. Chuck here and see what he's got for us as a possible betting opportunity in this matchup.
Well, you brought up an interesting thing. Is there much of a difference between the two leagues right now? But Chris Bassitt's look good. Where I look just immediately as soon as I see the Mets at home, for those of you that are, I have an interesting best bet today, and maybe got mocked a little bit before we took the show, but live. But I also do a lot of first five stuff, a lot of first five online, a lot of first five team total unders, overs, things like that. We were off a 5-unit winner last night on the Orioles team total under, largely based on situational stuff we talk a lot about, as well as VMI and ADI and things like that. But as far as first five goes, for those not paying attention, the Mets are playing their 28th home game this season. 25 of them before tonight, they have not lost the first 5. And only 5 of those were pushes. So you're talking 25 of 27. Adrian Hauser is not going to stop that train from rolling. I'm a big Chris Bassitt fan. Hauser's been a little bit better, but a lot of his analytics don't match up with anything. And John already told you what his newspaper numbers are, and they aren't good, period. So I don't think you're going to get anywhere near the price you should get. Sure, people saw the Brewers can actually win a game. They're not going to lose all the rest of their games. Like John said, the Braves might win all the rest of theirs. They did get off the schneid, but this lineup isn't what it's supposed to be. Even with, Council's moving guys around, putting Yelly at the top, Adames is back, but it's just not what they should be. And I just don't trust them at all. And the Mets are everything they should be and more. Can't find a spot for Dom Smith. It's unbelievable. This team is so good. And I just wouldn't shy away from anything to do with the first 5 on the Mets. And you can even lay that half a run for probably regular juice here. And that's the way I would look at this game. Maybe even expand that to a -1 and, worst case scenario push. But I like the Mets to keep that home first 5 rolling, and I don't think it's fake.
I think it's interesting to note, too, that the Mets are arguably one of the best hitting teams in all of baseball. They don't hit many home runs, though. And I'm a big believer in that. I think I statistically proved that the 3-run homer is the biggest rally killer that there is. And if you think about it for a little bit, that's what happens. You hit a 3-run homer, there's nobody on base, the pitcher relaxes. And the most stressful situation for a pitcher is first and third with less than 2 outs. And that's what the Mets are really good at doing this year. You may remember last year, they got runners in scoring position and couldn't score any of them. And I believe that was probably close to a major league record for number of men left on base, having been in scoring position with less than 2 outs. This year is way different. And I personally think they are the best offensive team. Question for you, Dr. Chuck, before we move over to Rocky's take on this game. I know you like those Nerf bets. the first inning. Will there be a score in the first inning or not? Mets in home games this year, I'm noting that they're 16-11 to score a run in their games. That means the opponent can score too. Do you think there could be a score in the first inning tonight with this pitching matchup?
So I already bashed Hauser and, didn't make it sound like that's a way that I would look. I totally like Bassitt in that spot, though, and I have backed the Mets a lot because not only are they really good in that first five, getting the lead, keeping the lead at least through the 5 innings. I mean, they have a great record as well, even though the record is so much better in the first 5. I'd actually back if I had to take a side on this Nerfy, I would back Hauser to get them out. Francisco Lindor is who has been my kryptonite this season. He pops one out there, and it is possible. Hauser has a little bit of an ability for that to happen. But if I had to go any certain way, I go under, which is probably going to be the juiced way.
Good stuff, Dr. Chuck. Rocky Atkinson, welcome to the show. As always, what do you have for us in this matchup that has got your attention?
Thank you, John. We got Milwaukee coming in 34-28. The Mets are 40-22. And like you said, the Mets are have one of the best records in baseball. Milwaukee opened up strong, and it's been downhill ever since. Adrian Hauser gets the call from Milwaukee. He's 1-3 with a 5.32 ERA on the road this year, and he's 0-2 with a 6.60 ERA his last 3 starts. Chris Bassitt getting the call for the Mets. He has a 0 ERA in his 1 career start versus Milwaukee, where he pitched 6 innings, allowing 3 hits. He had 6 strikeouts compared to only 1 walk. So good history there. Only 1 game, though. And like I said, Milwaukee's 1-6 their last 7 games overall. They're scoring only 3.4 runs per game while allowing 6.7 runs per game during that time. Milwaukee's 1-6 their last 7 games against right-handed starters. Flip over to the Mets side. They're 19-8 at home this year. They're scoring 5.4 runs per game. They're 28-12 against right-handed starters this season, scoring 5.3 runs per game. The Mets are 9-2 this year when they play with a day off. And the Mets are 17-4 their last 21 games when their opponent allowed 2 runs or less in their previous game. I'm going to side with the Mets here on the money line here tonight.
Great breakdown, Rocky. That 17-4 angle there at the end was awesome. One quick question for you. You can answer it yes or no. Chris Bassitt has given up 8 homers in his last 5 starts. That gets me a little concerned. Do you think I should be, or should I just think that he'll bounce back with a better effort and keep the ball in the yard?
Well, that's always a concern, giving up home runs. But what you got to do is you got to look at who he's opposing here tonight. Milwaukee's, they're on a downhill slide here, and they got Hauser on the mound, who hasn't looked well here lately. So I think Bassitt, is the side to be on.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make there, Rocky, because Bassitt could give up 3 homers and the Mets could win 9-2 or worse. So that's I think that is a moot point, whether he gives up a home run or not, or what's happened over the last 5 starts. Great job. The first game here. Our second game is the Guardians, the Cleveland Guardians of Ohio. I believe that's where they're located, are playing the Colorado Rockies, who started out really pretty well. 16-11 they were. They were 5 games over 500. And then they, too, like the Milwaukee Brewers, but in a much bigger slide, met their season low on Saturday, losing the first game of a doubleheader to the Padres. They won the nightcap and then won Sunday. So they have a little bit of momentum coming into this game against the Guardians, who are second in the American League Central with a paltry payroll, I might add. Terry Francona, again, the Philadelphia media said that he would never last more than a season in Boston. And I think he's the guy who broke the curse. And I think he's doing pretty darn well with Cleveland and the Guardians this year. Let's have Rocky start off this matchup and tell us where the opportunity lies in the matchup.
Well, you got Cleveland coming in with 29-27 record this year. Colorado's 27-34. Like you said, they've been on a little bit of a decline after a decent start. But I think this team is has a decent team here this year. Cleveland, I think, is a little bit better than what they've showed so far as well. Sensatella is going to get the call for Colorado. He's 2-1 with a 3.76 ERA at home this season. He's 1-0 with a 3.97 ERA in his 2 career starts versus Cleveland, and his team won both those starts. We got Cleveland coming in 4-11 their last 15 games when they play with a day off, and they're 5-17 their last 22 games against the National League West Division. They're also 1-6 their last 7 interleague games. Colorado, on the other hand, they're 8-2 their last 10 interleague games at home against a right-handed starter. Colorado's 4-1 their last 5 interleague games as an underdog. And key stat here, Colorado's 8-0 their last 8 meetings at home versus Cleveland. And the public's all over the Guardians here. So I'm going to take the underdog Colorado here tonight.
There we go. Sorry about that, fellas. I like the breakdown quite a bit, Rocky, if you didn't read my lips. And I think Colorado wins this game, and I think at plus 160, it's a great opportunity, in my humble opinion. Dr. Chuck, before you do your breakdown, first inning results for the Rockies as a home dog of this season. First inning score in their games, 11-6, 65% of the time. First inning, they're 5-8, however, with 4 pushes. I'm not sure how that worked, but maybe you're going to help me out here and teach me more about these first inning opportunities that you do so well with.
We could. We're going to talk about that throughout the show. But yeah, I'm fascinated by all things VMI and ADI, as I've mentioned ad nauseum on the show. And it's so interesting when a team goes to Colorado for the first game of a series. And Clifton Neely over at Baseball VMI is a genius. Shout out to him. Hopefully he keeps his work going. Both these teams are, and we talk about this a lot. So 15 is the number, negative 15 is the number, and plus 15 is the number. If you go outside or farther away from 0 than that, you're really pushing it. VMI is all based on a 4-seam fastball and how much it moves. Cleveland's showing up here with a plus 23 VMI based on what they've seen recently at home and other spots. Colorado's here at home in Coors with a plus 21 VMI. I focus a lot on this, not as much on things that people probably want me to with wins and losses and record and things like that. That's why I have Rocky in here to tell me what the record is on the team, because I couldn't possibly tell you. But the mere fact that Bieber's numbers are just as good, I think people want to fade Bieber just because, maybe he won a Cy Young in a season he shouldn't have. He probably had 12 starts, maybe 11 starts in that season. People talk a lot about everything to do with that season, the Dodgers with a ring, Bieber with a Cy Young, but his numbers are fantastic. His ERA is way higher than his FIP, almost an entire point. His out of zone, his chase rate or out of zone swing rate is phenomenal. He's pushing 42%, which makes Corbin Burns look bad. Senzatela is the exact opposite of that. The dude barely gets a 20% chase rate. He doesn't get any swings and misses. The guy is reliant completely on contact and defense. Sometimes the Rockies are good on defense, but a lot of the good defenders have left town recently in recent years. I don't think either of these teams are going to have an easy time scoring, even with Senzatela not being that great of a pitcher, because of how bad the VMI is. Focuses on first inning. All the numbers, if you focus on home and away, kind of converge into a pot where the Rockies are better to fade if they're on the road, and the Guardians are better to back if they're home. So the first 5 spot, I'm interested in Rockies' aspect of just taking them on the money line just to win the game, because if I had anything I wouldn't want to deal with after Bieber, just in case, because he doesn't always get the most run support. But yeah, I think both teams are going to struggle. Connor Joe's not in the lineup. The Rockies have already posted that, which I think is a big thing. And yeah, I like everything to do with an under, probably, if you're getting that full 11, everything to do with an under early, and everything to do with an under even earlier, as we'll talk about later.
Great stuff, Dr. Chuck. I think this game reminds me of a thing I used to do on Wall Street quite a bit, and that is called yield curve arbitrage. And I'm not going to tell you what that means, but it means that we are selling Cleveland at a high price in this matchup. We're buying the Rockies at a cheap price. And you can just look at the recent trends, wins and losses. Cleveland has been on a tremendous roll and remarkable. And I love the teams that do well with the low payrolls. Ever since Moneyball became a world phenomenon, I have been really attracted to them as a sports fan. I really am not a diehard any type of fan, unless, of course, it would be the Boston Red Sox. But I dislike the Celtics. So let's not talk about NBA. I want to ask Dr. Chuck one question for our new viewers, new sports bettors. What is VMI?
And we all know, John, arbitrage. Arbitrage is the key. We talked about this on the last show. Hopefully people are in tune with arbitrage. Serious arbitrage action in last night's game. I'm assuming John Ryan raked it in last night's game.
I did.
Once the total in the first half barely hit 90, and once the Celtics came back and took a 5-point lead, I bet John Ryan almost got retirement money last night. But
I'm too old for that.
VMI is visual memory index. It's based on mostly the four-seamer, and not every pitcher is a basic four-seamer pitcher. There's also going to be a loose pitcher, which focuses more on not a two-seam fastball, and a reverse pitcher, which focuses more on low stuff slider, low slider, split finger fastballs and cutters, things like that. Basically what you want is it would be ideal if every batter could have continuity with the way that they see the pitches. And if you're going to deal with Coors, either leaving it or arriving at Coors, you're going to have a lot of problem with what you've seen recently, because the air density is always going to be close to 15 points less. And the VMI is always going to just kind of go nuts. Now, inside of a series, you can have a lot of advantage, because the VMI that they have today, that's almost a combined 45, will drop and drop and drop as we go on. And by game 3 in this series, you're going to have a lot better advantage. But basically what's happening today is Bieber's four-seam fastball and Senzatela's four-seam fastball, both of them are four-seam primary pitchers. Based on what hitters have seen recently, they're better reacting at what they've seen recently. And the four-seam fastball for both of them is not going to move. It's not going to move at all. In this type of VMI, the hitter is going to be thinking that a four-seam fastball either moves 1 or 2 or 3 inches based on what they've seen, and it's just not going to move. And so each four-seam fastball is just going to be straightforward. And believe it or not, that's not an easy thing to adjust to on a game-to-game basis.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chuck. And that's good stuff for people that are listening to you for the first time, because VMI and all these acronyms can get really confusing in a hurry. Let's move over to the last matchup here, which is the Minnesota Twins are visiting the great Northwest Seattle Mariners, who are 4th place in the American League West. They have Logan Gilbert on the hill, who is pitching well with a 6-2 record, ERA of 2.41. If he was on a team that had an offense like the Mets or the Yankees, he'd probably be 8-0, maybe even more. The Twins have Joe Ryan on the hill, 2.28, 5-2 record. It looks like a really good pitching matchup here. Let's start with Dr. Chuck on this matchup and see who he likes.
So for those of you that have my All Access package, we were pretty big on Mariners last night. A complete, almost entirely VMI fade of the Twins, arriving in Seattle with a really terrible VMI. They have another -6 tonight. Unfortunately, and I've said this before, there are guys, Trout, Goldie, Bryce Harper, Byron Buxton, that can be VMI proof. And as we saw last night, there was not much going on offense, but Byron Buxton went deep again in the first inning. That was all they needed, and we were not able to squeeze that out. Again tonight, we still have a Byron Buxton problem, as we have a Byron Buxton problem every night, but I would be even more. It's one of those things where, you have to be disciplined when you bet. But I was pretty bullish on the Mariners last night, even more bullish on the Mariners with Logan Gilbert. Joe Ryan is not someone I buy. I love how his numbers look on the box score, because that's even better for the way that I play my baseball bets. coming off of the IL. I think he had COVID. I don't know if he had COVID or if he was just gone for COVID, but he hasn't started since late May, late May, I think like the 20th or something like that. And so not a spot I would want to be on them. And just in this bounce back situation, Twins on the road only win about 40% of the time just in general off of that win. Plus they didn't do anything last night against that Mariners pitching staff except that Byron Buxton home run. So I like it even more. And I'd be a little more bullish on that first five, as I say a lot. Interesting and something you should take into account when a home team has a first five that's juicier even than their full game.
Love the breakdown. I agree with you, Dr. Chuck. I have no questions for you on that matchup. Let's see what Rockies got in this matchup. Twins, Mariners. Take it away, Rocky.
You got Minnesota coming in 36-27 on the year. Seattle's 27-34. I actually think these two teams are more evenly matched than those records indicate there. Like you said, a good pitching matchup here tonight. Joe Ryan going for the Twins, Logan Gilbert going for the Mariners. Joe Ryan, he's got good numbers this year. He's 0-1 with a 4.50 ERA, though, in his one career start versus Seattle. Gilbert, 6-2, 2.53 ERA overall this year. 2-1, 3.04 ERA at home this season. 2-0 with a 1.89 ERA his last three starts. He has a 1.80 ERA in his one career start versus the Twins. Minnesota is 1-8 their last 9 games after a win here. Seattle's 5-0 their last 5 games when their opponent allowed 2 runs or less in their previous game. Seattle 6-1 the last 7 games after a loss. Seattle 6-1 the last 7 games after scoring 2 runs or less in their previous game. To me, all things indicate playing Seattle here at home tonight. Small play on Seattle on the money line for me.
Love the breakdown, Rocky. Before I get to our speed round of best bets for the show, $2 cappers are Rob Vincelletti at SportsMemo, King Creole at SportsMemo, and some guy named John Ryan. And I understand he has a 5% max bet in the NBA Game 6 matchup between 2 NBA teams. I forget who they are, but seriously, the Warriors, Celtics, 5% max bet of 71% with these 5%ers. So I feel pretty darn good about who I have and the total and all that good stuff. But again, Rob Vincelletti, King Creole, John Ryan, who is me, by the way, and you get all 3 of us for just 5 smackers. Okay, that's the deal of the century. It happens every Tuesday with 3 different guys each week. Let's move on to the round of best bets. For the batting order today is going to be myself with my great Brooklyn Nets hat on, and then Dr. Chuck, and then Rocky. So my best bet is the MLB angle of the day, and I'll sum it up very quickly. This is, you're betting on underdogs using the run line. The team is averaging 1.25 or more home runs per game, so they are a power-oriented team, one of the tops in Major League Baseball right now. And they're facing a struggling starting pitching, sporting a hefty ERA of 7 or higher over his last 5 starts. Guess what team that is? It's Milwaukee. Milwaukee Brewers are in a 74-23 situation for 76% winners, plus 1.5 run line over the last 5 seasons. I believe that best bet right now can be purchased at, I think, DraftKings at plus 1.5 minus 160. Try not to pay more than 160. I obviously like it better if it's less vig on it. Obviously, everybody likes that. But I do like Milwaukee here, plus the 1.5 run line. And real quick, Larry Kelly has been a loyal follower of ours. He asked about the Yankees game, and I say, don't bet the Yankees, because the Yankees are a team that have outscored their opponents by more than 100 runs on the season. The Dodgers are the other one. And when you're a home favorite of minus 175 or more in the month of June, and you've outscored your opponents by 100 or more runs, it's regression time. Those teams are just 44-32. That sounds like a winning record, but they've averaged a minus 230 money line. And this has produced a 32% ROI over the last 10 seasons of Major League Baseball, fading these juggernaut giants called the New York Yankees. So if anything, I would go against the Yankees in that game. Let's move over to Dr. Chuck now and see what his best bet is for the show.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to do the same thing for Larry, and I would be back in the clubs. I can't imagine that Garrett Cole is as bad as he was at Target, but just like John said, there's no value in doing anything but getting the Rays at that price. I'm looking tonight at a game that we probably made obvious is where I'm looking is the Guardians going to visit the Rockies at Coors. Huge VMI, both teams. Yes, for the clients out there, I bash and fade Senzatella almost as though it's my job. But this is just a spot where he has to get 3 outs. He's going to be able to go 3 up, 3 down in almost all the models that I have here. Bieber's numbers are even better analytically than he's ever been. And you're going to get an unbelievable price on the Nerfy in the first inning, on a Nerfy in Coors, no matter what, because they just have to, because liabilities and the way books work, you're just going to have to put that kind of price out. I mean, it's good all the way down to even. It's probably good all the way up to minus 120. I can't imagine that it moves a whole lot. I think more people are on this than a lot of people think. And I think Nerfy is probably a lot more common of a play than a full game under. But I think Bieber goes easy 1, 2, 3. I will be nervous when Jose Ramirez steps to the plate with 2 outs against Antonio Senzatella, but I have faith to get him out. And then, as a lot of people that are big into the Nerfy is, it's the most exciting and quickest bet in sports. You're going to be paid out in about a quarter of an hour. So let's get 0-0 at the end of that game. And I'd also probably play the full game under 11.
Great work, Dr. Chuck. Fantastic stuff. And let's move over to the best anchor that I have ever hosted on a show, especially when it was college football or the NFL, which is right around the corner. And that means it's Rocky Atkinson's turn for a best bet. Take it away, Rocky, and tell us where to put our hard-earned money tonight.
Yes, sir, John. I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Pirates St. Louis Cardinals game 2 of a doubleheader here tonight. Pittsburgh 24-35, St. Louis 35-27. Wilson gets the call for the Pirates here. He's 0-2 with a 12.06 ERA overall this year. He has a 7.71 ERA on the road this season, and he's 0-2 with a 19.62 ERA his last 3 starts. During those last 3 starts, he's averaged only 2.4 innings pitched, allowing 16 earned runs during that time. And he's 0-2 with a 13.96 ERA in 3 career starts versus St. Louis. Miles Michaelis gets the call for the Cardinals. He's 4-4, 2.93 ERA overall this year. He's lacked run support. He's pitched well, but the runs just haven't come. And I think this Cardinals team will be able to hit Wilson here tonight and create some run support here for Michaelis. He has a 3.37 ERA at home this season, and he has a 3.22 ERA in his 14 career starts versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 0-7 the last 7 games overall, scoring only 2.7 runs per game. Team batting average is only 204 during that time. They're 42-104 their last 146 road games. St. Louis is 44-19 last 63 games as a favorite. St. Louis is 49-21 their last 70 games overall versus Pittsburgh. And St. Louis has won 6 of the 7 meetings overall versus Pittsburgh this year. So I'm expecting the Cardinals to hit Wilson hard here early. And we're going to play St. Louis on the run line in game 2 tonight.
Love it, Rocky. Great breakdown. Both of you guys, Dr. Chuck and Rocky, thank you for your time. As always, this is a great show. Loved it. And lastly, we have 3 handicappers, and I learned that Rob Vincelette has a 5% MLB 100% diamond cutter top play as part of the $2 Tuesday. I have the 5% NBA max bet that obviously is not playing tonight, but it's playing tomorrow night, the last I heard. And King Creole has his Kings MLB over of the day. So make sure you go and buy those 3 picks for just $5 right now. And while you're there, stop by and check out Rocky Atkinson's and Dr. Chuck's profile page. I assure you they are on the leaderboards a lot, and they are very worthy of your hard-earned money for like a 30-day subscription. Try not to get just the 5% max bets. Commit to an investment in yourself and have these professionals start working for you tonight. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. Thanks for the great show. And as always, remember 2 simple things. Bet with your head and not over it, and may all the wins be yours.